Yeah, let's start this. Yeah, let's do this. Hi there, everybody. Welcome back. My name is QB to another video, unscripted, unedited video of Steal the Skies campaign, where we're going over lore and things that players and characters should know and can reference throughout the entire campaign, so that notes will be needed as you go through the adventure of specific nuances and things that you do, but these notes will be good for like basic understanding of stuff. Last video was the start of the player guides on using the Excel sheets to build your characters. And this one is specifically, that was for the jobs, this one is for crafting. So the fun thing about the crafting is that the vast majority of these rules are in the base handbook for the FRPG 3rd edition, but they're all over the place. So this Google sheet that I have is basically just pulling them all together in one neat, concise spot. And the next set of videos, I think this will be like 3-4 videos, something like that. We'll be going over how to make different crafted items throughout your adventures. So, first off, the first page here is your is going to go over the different types of crafted items. They come in 3 major categories. You have basic materials. These are your metals, your woods, and your cloth materials. You have your special materials. These are going to be gems and specific situations. Oh wait, there's a 4th kind. So special materials are like gemstones and stuff like that. Alchemical materials. This is going to be the kinds of stuff that you can get for like alchemy, cooking, your herbs, but also it counts for spoils. Spoils are the extra piece that comes from usually monsters, like specific plant juice that you can get from tomato monsters, or you need to get hides, stuff like that. And usually spoils will combine with either alchemical materials or with special materials to give you abilities on your weapons and armor, or you can make specific alchemy materials given the spoil that you have. And most enemies have 1 or 2 different spoils that you can gather, and we'll talk about that in just a second in this video. Before we move along, let us go on to the... also, before I move on to the specific crafting skill checks, these tiers will be increasing throughout the adventure, so that it scales with the game. I haven't thought of a reasonable explanation of why someone's not going to be able to sell you a specific material that they might be able to sell a higher level adventure at the same point in time, aside from game balance reasons. So we're gonna stick with that. Yeah. So things are going to unlock as you go up in level, the rarity and all that stuff. So moving right along, we have skill check rules. This is going to be for all crafting that you will be doing, whether it's alchemy, repairing something, building armors, weapons, or just practical items that you want. So these are the general rules that will be given for all of that, such as the amount of time that you can work on a project without taking breaks and not have any penalization, because take breaks, everybody. Get up, get some water, take a little nap, whatever you need to, because if you are working past 12 hours on a project without any rest, your skill check at the end will be penalized. There will be a negative modifier at the end of it all. Every 4 hours that you work without taking a rest, the penalization, the modifier, goes down by another 10. So if you're just cranking out a bunch of items just one by one, not giving yourself any time, you're at it for like a full 24 hours, you're going to get exhausted, really exhausted by the end of it. It takes half an hour to convert a space into a workshop and 1 hour to tear down the workshop to bring up a different workshop. Depending on how much room you have, most teams are starting out in the campaign where there is enough room for one workshop at one time. So people are going to have to share at the beginning. Setting up workshops counts as that 12 hours that you need to be managing your time. If you fail on a skill check, you gain 50 crafting points that you spent with that craft that you failed on, and no item. If you botch on the skill check, you lose all of the CP, all the crafting points, and you don't get the item. So, if you have things that where you get to re-roll crafting checks, and you're going at it for some big item that you really want, might want to say, if you have the ability to re-roll crafting checks, you might want to save it for that point in time. Moving right along, there are group checks. You can have an assistant in the workshop with you. If another player or an animal companion has the same skill, they can help lower the amount of workshop hours. So it doesn't really help the chance of it succeeding, but it does help lower the amount of time it takes for it to happen. Crafter can only have one person assisting their craft. Before the craft attempt, the assistant determines how much they want to help lower the craft time by, which is basically they contribute that same amount of time. So if I'm in the shop for, if person A is in the shop for 10 hours, someone's like, hey, I want to help you out. They can decide to be in the shop for 7 hours. And so that is a full 7 hours that they are there, and they're contributing 75% of the assistance. But, or at least they help out. Actually, now that sorry. This is unscripted, as you can see. They help out throughout the time. If they succeed their roll, they first roll their craft check. If they succeed by the amount that they're trying to help out, they can reduce the amount of time that it takes. So that 10-hour project is now 2.5 hours, which is great. If they fail the roll, the total workshop hours is lowered by half that time. So that 75% that was lowered by is now lowered by 3.75. So it's still good to be able to try contributing 75% when you can. But if you botch the roll, then the assistant has to stick with the crafter throughout the entire time, and they are kind of more in the way than actually helping. But that's what you get when trying to do the group crafting. Moving right along, next section we are going to go over how to get crafting points that you don't want to buy from a shop. You get crafting points specifically from spoils, from monsters themselves. And so you can farm monsters. You get crafting points from the other types, the basic, special, and alchemical mats by going out and mining, farming, scavenging for them. But when you are high enough level, you are confident enough, and you just want a specific attributes, a specific spoil, you can farm your monsters. You can basically roll your tracking, and depending on how you do on the tracking, you can see up to 5 groups of enemies that has the monster you're looking for in them, and you can round them up for a big battle if you want. So if you're significantly higher level, and you know that your team has a lot of group attacks, you can basically pull them all together and just nuke them. Go to town. Once you have monsters that you have vanquished, each monster has a number of crafting points dedicated to them for specific items that I have determined when I create the monster themselves. The tier of the crafting points for the spoils is determined by the level of the monster. Basically, the bigger the monster, the more spoils you get. The higher level, the more rarity of spoils that it will have. Once you have a defeated monster, you can declare up to 10 crafting points that you want to scavenge for a specific material. You then roll your scavenging skill. Failed roll means that you get half the number of crafting points that you declared for. Botched means that you get none of the spoils that you declared for. If you succeed, you get the same amount, and if you critically succeed, somehow you're able to pull enough crafting points that you end up with 25% more than you were originally intending. And each roll usually takes about, let's see, when this was released, like 15 minutes to several hours, depending on how big and how many monsters you are scavenging. So, when going through it, it's the tier of the item determines the modifier on your scavenging roll, how difficult it will be, and how many minutes per crafting point. So, if you have a monster you want that has 10 crafting points of a material you're looking for, it's a tier 1 material. It'll take 10 minutes to get all of those, which isn't that much. Moving right along, there are 2 different categories of things that you can get. You have adventuring items, so like your weapons, your armor, all that stuff, and you have practical crafted items. These are little knickknacks that you want to make. They're fixing a door, or making a door, or anything just general purpose use that you and I in real life would have and have a need for. So first off, you want to know what you're looking for when you're making this practically crafted item. You could, if you want, make your entire living based off of creating and selling crafted items. Basically, the size of the crafted item that you want. Where's the tier of material? Right, the size of the item that you want determines how many crafting points is required. The material itself will determine how much it will cost. So if you want to create something that is 1 meter, it'll cost 40 crafting points. If you want to make it out of moon silver, it will cost more than if you want to make it out of steel. The size determines how long it will take to create, and you want to combine the size with the number of crafting points with the complexity. How complex do you want to make what you are making? If you're making just a wooden slab, just a wooden piece of wood to be your door, that's probably a complexity of 1, which will make it twice as fast to be able to make than on the hours required, and which does make it less valuable, but a lot easier to be able to succeed on. Ultimately, this success modifier of the complexity determines if you will succeed or not, based off of the skill that you're using. The value meter modifier determines how much, if you want to sell it, how much it would be worth, and then just combine the hours with the time modifier of the size and the complexity, and you'll have your practically crafted item that you could sell. If you successfully craft it, you could sell it for 120% plus modifiers of how much you spent to get it. Critical successes on crafting it will give you more money because it looks a lot nicer. But you can also make an art check to make before the final crafting skill check to try and make it extra pretty, to make it extra valuable. Which is basically rolling your art check, deciding if you want to be little autistic, moderately autistic, and very autistic. And if you succeed, it will be that much more expensive, much more profitable when you want to sell it. And if you fail the check, it doesn't really work. It's not that much more it's not more profitable. It's not less profitable unless you botch the art check. Then the amount that you wanted to increase it by is negatively affected. So, yeah, careful with that in that front. Next up, we have selling adventuring items. Adventuring items, your swords, your armor, everything like that. Not everyone's going to want it since not everyone is an adventurer. It doesn't really make much sense for some people. But there are some places outside of large cities where people might want it. If you want to sell your adventuring gear, you can do so by using a negotiation skill check against someone you want to sell it to. Without the negotiation skill check, items sell for 25% less gil of the original crafting points cost to make, so you should probably do that, do the extra points of selling. But how to go about selling these items is that there'll be a little bit of roleplay between the GM and the players. Based on how the players do versus the interest of the NPC originally has, determines on how much you can sell it for and if the person is willing to buy it. If the person won't understand you, as in you don't have a skill rating of 50 or more in the language of the buyer, the player will need to roll a language check to see if they can convey the haggling appropriately. If the player succeeds the negotiation roll, they can sell the adventuring gear, same as before. If they critically succeed, they can sell the item for the same as a critical success on the skill check. Past that point, there is an extra modifier that is determined by the player's role playing and the NPC's interest. So, if the player comes up to the NPC, negs them along, and the NPC wasn't interested in the beginning, the player is going to have a negative 60% of trying to sell the item. The NPC is not interested at that point. However, if the NPC is interested, the player's RP is good. They're good at like, hey, how's it going? Doing the little sales showmanship. They'll have a plus 40% to the modifier. So it's a great way to get, the role playing doesn't necessarily have to be too in depth, but definitely is a way to combine both role playing and roles. Last but not least of this video and of this section is selling time. So some shops or areas, instead of buying your practically crafted items, will instead let you open your own table, sell your own wares, see how you do on your own. To be able to, if a place is asking you to do this so that you can see how well you're able to sell your items, it will require a trade skill. And the trade skill, if you watch the trade skill, it's made, which you make every hour. Then you don't sell any items. Up to if you critically succeed, then you're able to sell 9 items within 1 hour. So, yeah, that is the basics for crafting, the rules on how to do the crafting, how to get crafting points, practically crafted items, and how to sell everything that you don't want, or things that you specifically made to sell. So, yeah, that's me, QB. And next time we're going to be going on to tools, gadgets, repairs, and cooking and alchemy. So I'll see you all later.